Alright guys, Hayzink here, welcome back to the channel for another Street Fighter Duel video, and this video is going to get a bit technical, but hopefully it's technical enough that it allows people to understand what is actually going on here. So this is something that's been prompted by, it was actually a message I got from someone who thought that Shredder might be bugged, okay? Shredder's not bugged. However, there is technically a bug within the game's mechanics, and some people may well see it as a positive and not want anything to be done about this, but other people might see it as a, oh wait a minute, that needs to be fixed. So I'm going to highlight it just now, and as the community, you guys can decide if you want to put pressure on them to fix this or not, because in essence, this does mean that Shredder is not in fact the fastest unit in the game, in some scenarios. One scenario specifically, okay? So I'm going to demonstrate just now what exactly is going on, explain to you what is actually bugged within the mechanic, and again, if they choose to fix this, then Shredder will become the fastest unit in the game. But right now, depending on your team composition, he's not, right? So we're going to take a look at a fight here just now, okay? Now for two fights, I went on the opposing side to show you essentially what's going on, and then I am on the attacking side to show you the reverse, okay? So fight number one, you're going to see here that what I did was I basically kitted this team out to be the fastest it could possibly be, okay? So we have Shredder on here, we have got our Bison as support. I'm going to go now and put Bison on to Shredder, so Shredder is going to be basically maxed out with regards to the amount of speed that he can get as a unit, okay? And along with that, we are also going to be putting on the speed equips as our EX. You'll see that up top just now. We've got the 3 EX moves that give us additional speed. For me, it's 6, 6 and 8, okay? So we are getting the speed from them. Now, the only team that on paper should be able to outspeed me would be another Shredder team that has these EXs at a higher level, okay? That is the only team that should be able to outspeed me. But it's not, right? It's not. We're going to look just now, and you'll see straight away on the lineup the unit that is basically the exception to this rule, and it's Ibuki, okay? Now I need to let you slowly see what's happening here, and in that way I will be able to explain what the issue is, right? So we go into the fight, we're lining up, and Shredder is going to do his move, okay? So Shredder's going to do his move. You can see there that Shredder is doing his actual move. Now I need to just move the screen just a little bit so that you can see the action gauge, okay? So Shredder is doing his move, and you see how now, if you just look there at the top of the screen, enemy first strike bonus, okay? If you look at the time, we're already a good bit of time into this fight. This fight has already started a few seconds ago. However, only now the first strike bonus is actually coming up. And as you can see, it's gone to the enemy. It's gone to the person that I am fighting, okay? Now, they should not outspeed me, if you guys understand. They should not be able to outspeed the team composition that I built, okay? Why is this happening? This is basically happening because when Shredder comes into the battle, Shredder is casting his, what do you call it, his passive, his lightning, whatever, right? And he's doing that, and then when that is finished, the fight is starting, okay? Now, the unfortunate thing is that's not actually what's happening, okay? Because when you start the fight, right? You start the fight, you obviously start building up your passives and all that type of stuff, okay? So basically when Shredder is casting his ability, it's not pausing everything. Everything's still moving on in the background. So what then happens is Ibuki, her passive kicks in and she gets a massive boost to speed, and a bookie ends up having something crazy, like I think it can cap out at like 300 or something, but a bookie ends up getting such a speed boost from her passive that she, by the time the battle actually starts, even though the battle started as soon as you entered the field, as soon as the battle actually starts within the game's mechanic, she then becomes the fastest unit on the lineup and they get the first strike bonus, okay? Now, I'm going to show you this again because it's not just Shredder, there's another unit this happens with, okay? So if you look here, you'll see this time I've got Overlord Bison on my team, right? So on my team, I've got an Overlord Bison, but I've still got all my speed moves, I've still got Bison, and this is pre-planned. I'm already on paper going to have a lineup that is faster than what I'm facing, okay? So we're going to go in here, you're going to see that I'm going to be pretty much facing off against what we just faced off against, okay? We're going to be facing off against the same thing, except I am now going to be running Bison instead of running Shredder. However, I've compensated for that loss in speed by running Bison. So I still outspeed this team, right? That, what I've got there, is still a faster team than this team on the other side, okay? But again, if we go ahead, and you'll see, when we go into the battle, Bison casts his attacky thing, then enemy first strike bonus. Now, because of that delay, this now means that they're the fastest team, because a bookie has been, in the meantime, building up her, I guess you would call it a passive, and she's been getting that massive boost to her speed, okay? Making them the fastest team, despite the fact that I am actually the fastest team, okay? So, if we go again, I've got about two more examples, because this is again going to just basically show you what is kind of going wrong here, okay? What is not working. Or again, it really depends on how you want to view this. I would call it a bug, and the reason I would call it a bug, I'll get to, but let's look at two more examples of what's happening, okay? So, if you look here, this is me, I'm now attacking. I've purposely slowed my team down. I've taken all my speed EXs from my build, okay? I don't have any particularly fast units at starting time, okay? So these units are not fast. A bookie does get a speed boost 5 seconds into the battle, but starting out, this team is not a fast team. So I have slowed it down, I've slowed down my EX moves and all the rest of it, and I've had him purposely put out a team that will vastly outspeed this team, okay? But as an attacker, he has got Overlord Bison on his team, okay? Now, if you look here, despite the fact that he's got Yun with Bisang on support, Bison casts his passive. If you watch my bar at the bottom, okay, you see my bar shoots up there. Did you see how my bar shot up to have full, basically, super gauge? That essentially means that I am ready to go. I've got the fastest amount of speed going, and I am getting to go first in this battle, okay? Now, we're going to look at it one more time, okay? And this is without having Bison or Shredder on the team, okay? So if we go ahead and look here, you'll see I've not really changed anything. The only thing he's going to do is keep in the same team, except he's going to take Bison out of that team, and he's going to put in a different unit, okay? So, we'll go in now. Hopefully. Don't know how long I recorded this footage for. Oh, I know what happened here. We had a little bit of an issue. We'll fix it. We'll fast forward in just a little bit. About here, I think. Maybe. I think this is now the right bit. Hopefully. Again, I can't remember what actually happened because I recorded this and then I've come to do this. Hopefully, yeah, here we go, right? So, this bit's important, okay? This bit's very important. We're going into the battle, you can see. Once we enter the battle, straight away, they've got their enemy first strike bonus, okay? So because, technically speaking, Bisang delayed that start just a little bit, because Bisang comes in and he does his spinny attack. If Bisang hadn't been there doing his spinny attack, right away, the whole first strike thing would have been decided straight away, because there's nothing at the beginning of the fight delaying that from like actually happening. But you can see that if I outsped them the last time, I should have outsped them this time, okay? But I didn't, because Shredder Overlord Bison essentially delay the start of the fight. Now, this is where it gets a little bit technical, okay? So I'm back over in the live version of the game. We need to take a look at, it doesn't really matter if we look at Overlord Bison or if we look at Shredder. So we'll look at Shredder, right? Go to here, we'll go to here, we'll click on Shredder, and we'll click on his passive, okay? So if you look at his passive, gain 25% damage bonus and a 40% dodge while unleashing Illusion Strike. In fact, that's not what's happening, it's his cars. When deployed in the starting team, gain 60% speed for 10 seconds and unleash Mandate of Lightning once. This is considered a trigger skill, okay? Right? If we also go to Bison, just to double verify this, we go to skill, his passive does it. Is it his passive? Upon entering the battle, Invitation to Hell will be unleashed once. However, the damage of the vortex summoned will be reduced by 25%. Okay, so with Shredder, it's when deployed in the starting lineup. With Bison, it is upon entering the battle. Okay, now this is a very important takeaway. It does not say before the battle begins, right? It doesn't say before the battle begins. So there is no reason that this should actually happen, because what should happen is, yes, they should come into the battle and he should cast his skill, and Shredder should cast his skill, because it's what they're supposed to do, okay? But that should not pause what's happening on the other team, okay? What's currently happening within the game's mechanics is these guys are coming in, they're doing what they do, and it's essentially pausing the start of the fight. And then after they finish, the fight begins. But in that time, Ibuki's passive is still continuing to do what it does, okay? So, in essence, it's essentially manufacturing a situation where Ibuki isn't being paused. All the other fighters are being paused, apart from the two fighters, Shredder and Bison, whose passive is causing them to do this animation, right? Because basically, if you have a faster team, it doesn't matter what team, right? Even with this happening, Ibuki should not allow them to go before your team, because Vega setups, Bison setups and stuff should still be faster than whatever you line up. They should still be having their attack at the same point in time where they would always have their attack. That should not change, okay? A better example of that is probably if I just go now and we take a look basically at just a bog standard normal fight. So let's go to, I don't know, guild. No, let's go to challenge, let's go to here, let's go to here, and just very quickly I'll just put in a V Vega team, right? So let's see, a V Vega team. What did he attack me with? I can't remember what he attacked me with. I think it was Overlord Bison. Right, it was Overlord Bison, it was Yun, it was Bison on support. So if I go and find my Bison, if I find my Bison and I put my Bison up here, and we can't have a Buki on there, so we'll put Vega on there. Vega. Do you know what? It doesn't really matter who I put on there. I'll just put on you. That'll do, right? Because the speed's coming from here. This is where the speed's coming from. So on that team that he had facing me, it was this is where the speed was coming from. So we're going to start this fight and we're going to look at exactly when this unit should be doing their first super attack, right? So we'll move into here, go to 1 speed, does their attack, 86, 85, they should be striking there, right? That is when they should be striking. There's nothing at all within the mechanic of the game that prevents that from happening. So it was 85 seconds on the clock is when they should have actually been doing their first strike. And if we go back here and we look at this battle, which is, again, I've got a Buki here, so essentially this is being abused, but 85 seconds is when they should be essentially carrying out their first strike, okay? It doesn't matter that Bison's doing this. They should be doing their first strike against me at 85 seconds, okay? So if we go back here and we look, We're at 85 seconds. They should be able to attack, okay? Now, I know from speaking to him, he did not have it set up in such a way that there would be an issue with Bison proccing. You can see that he still did not do his attack. It was 80 seconds, it was 5 seconds later. So what that tells us, quite simply put, right, if we go back, you can see that from the start of the fight, we already know that you should be attacking on 85 seconds, right? Now in this fight specifically, he's got Overlord Bison starting the combo. So Overlord Bison would interfere with that, right? But Overlord Bison had finished his attack there. So if you look, right, when we do this attack, they should be able to do their first super attack after 85 seconds, right? And if we watch again, Overlord Bison's passive, if I can just move forward enough. So, here's the start of the fight. Overlord Bison's passive kicks in. It's running, it's running, it's running, it's running. It's done, right? So it's done. Overlord Bison now can make a super attack, right? Overlord Bison can now make a super attack. He's not busy, he's not being held up. He is available within the game to make a super attack. But if you actually watch 85, 84, 83, 82, then they go. It's the same delay. It's like the 5 seconds it takes in a normal fight. So essentially, the fight isn't beginning at all until after that 5 second period at the start has finished. So essentially, this fight begins at 85 seconds. But it doesn't actually begin at 85 seconds because things like Ibuki's passive is continuing to build in the background. So basically what's happening is the game is in part pausing some elements but not all elements to compensate for the likes of Shredder, to compensate for the likes of Overlord Bison doing their passive attack, right? And that is essentially, in essence, causing an exploit where you can use Ibuki to become the fastest unit in the game. And this is most likely caused by the fact that, I've spoke about this before, this game really seems to have an issue when it comes to being able to calculate two things happening at the same time. I don't know what it is. It's just a thing that exists within this game, and it seems to be that it's somehow incapable of realising that when Shredder, when Bison are doing their starting attack, their passives, the other teams can still move. They can still like progress, and their attack combo meter can still move. There's no reason for that not to move. Instead, it just pauses it, which it shouldn't do. Now, this is an issue for one reason and one reason only. Basically, Shredder, who is the fastest unit in the game, he will never, ever outspeed a team if they've got Ibuki on it. If someone has Ibuki on their team, you cannot outspeed them. And if someone has Ibuki on a team with Bison, essentially that team now becomes the fastest team in the game. Okay? And it's been that way for a while. I didn't really bother to speak about it because I didn't really think too much of it, to be honest. But when you think about it, it is an exploit because no matter what you do to try and counter it, the fastest team in the game is an Overlord Bison team, and it's an Overlord Bison team featuring Ibuki. It doesn't matter if you've not got if you've not got Bison on your team. If you're facing a Bison team, Ibuki on your squad makes her the fastest team in the game. If you've got Bison on your team, it doesn't matter who you're fighting. Ibuki's going to be the fastest unit in the game. So essentially, call it a feature, call it a bug. I would probably call it a bug. It's not a bugged unit, it's a bugged mechanic of the game. Should it exist? I'll leave it up to you guys to decide. I feel like if Ibuki is going to continue to proc her passive while this is happening, then there's no reason why the combo meter shouldn't continue to move. The combo meter shouldn't essentially pause to allow for these actions to happen, because again, it's essentially giving an unfair advantage to people who are running Ibuki, I guess. Now, this is a bit of a secret sauce type thing. I don't think too many people were really sharing this, to be completely honest, because you would have people that would joke about how Ibuki's not the fastest unit, Shredder's not the fastest unit in the game. There's units in the game that can go over 300 speed. They're referring to a bookie, and it's mainly due to this exploit. So they might get a bit upset at me for this video, but when I've got people messaging me telling me that Shredder's bugged, I know Shredder's not bugged. I know what the actual bug is, and the bug is this. The bug is the fact that essentially the game's coded poorly. I've said this before, and it's allowing for this to happen. So the truth is, on paper against any other team, Shredder's the fastest unit in the game. But if someone makes the combo of a bookie plus technically Shredder or Overlord Bison, that becomes the fastest team in the game. Okay, the actual fastest quote-unquote team in the game would be Shredder plus a bookie. Okay, because with Shredder plus a bookie, you're going to get that cheat of a bookie being boosted. Okay, if you were facing off against another team and they had Bison and a bookie, I'm fairly sure the Shredder and a bookie team would go first, which would make them the quote-unquote fastest unit in the game. So there you have it. Shredder's not bugged, but the game is bugged, okay, and this is what it is. So technically speaking, right now anyway, if they don't fix this, this is a factual statement, on two very specific teams or facing very specific compositions, i.e. if you've got Shredder or if you've got a bookie, sorry, if you've got Shredder or you've got Bison on your team, or if you're facing off against a Bison or against a Shredder and you have a bookie on your team, that is the fastest team in the game. The fastest unit in the game is a bookie because of these characters delaying the start of the fight. But again, they shouldn't be delaying the start of the fight because their passive does not state before the battle begins. So the battle's begun, everything should move along as normal while they are doing this, but it doesn't, and that's where the bug basically comes into play. So again, call it an exploit, call it a bug, call it whatever you want. This is definitely something that is not as widely known, so take from it what you will. If you think they should fix it, go to game feedback and give feedback on this. If you're angry at me for kind of letting this be known, hey, it is what it is. But there you have it. So I would technically really err on the side of it is a bit of a flaw in the game's mechanic. So for that reason, I do think it is fair to call it a bug. But there you have it. A bookie is actually the fastest unit in the game. Happy days. Peace out guys, I've been Hayzink and I'll catch you in the next one. See you later.